This is More Than Work, the podcast reminding you that your self-worth is made up of more than your job title. Each week, I'll talk to a guest about how they discovered that for themselves. You'll hear about what they did, what they're doing, and who they are. I'm your host, Rabiah. I work in IT, perform stand-up comedy, write, volunteer, and, of course, podcast. Thank you for listening. Here we go. Hey everyone, welcome back to More Than Work. I am really excited because this guest actually came to me via one of my favorite podcasts and fellow squadcasters, Pam Muzel, who does Art Heals All Wounds, and he was a guest there, and he's a guest here. And so maybe if you really love him, you'll go listen to him over there too, because I'd love to give Pam a shout as well. But it's Michael Brady. He is a psychotherapist and musician, and as a musician, he's M. Brady, but we'll call him Michael for this one. So thanks for being a guest on More Than Work, Michael.
Oh, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to get to meet you. I know I put you through it to schedule. So first of all, where am I talking to you from today?
Well, you normally would find me from the mountains of Western Massachusetts, but I happen to be in South Carolina at the moment visiting my daughter who's in college down here.
Nice. Okay, cool. And of course, I'm in London, but sound like this because I'm from California. So first of all, I think I mentioned you do psychotherapy. Let's just talk about you being a psychotherapist and how long you've been doing that and kind of what you want to tell me about that work and what it does for you.
Sure. I've been a practicing psychotherapist since I was 30. I'm now 63, so I've been at it for a while. And honestly, I begin by saying it's just a true honor to be able to sit with people and share their lives in such an intimate way. It's really quite a remarkable experience. I pinch myself most days and go, I actually get to do this for work. So it's something I'm really grateful for. And it's really a lot of meaning. It also became the inspiration for the record that I made and as well. So we'll get to that later.
Awesome. Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm pretty open about it that I've been in therapy for many years, off and on, or with different people. Did you decide to go into therapy to help people, or how did you decide to go into that as a profession? Because even you went into it 30 years ago, and I definitely think the landscape has changed in how people talk about mental health. So how did you decide to go into it 30 years ago?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, honestly, I sort of wish that many clients, when they're interviewing therapists, great question to ask. I had one person ask me exactly that. And the story I told that person, and I'll tell you now, is I got interested in psychotherapy mainly because I was a professional tennis player in my previous life, and I came to understand really clearly the role that psychology obviously plays in one's realizing one's potential. And I think hopefully most therapists have gone through some sort of suffering themselves, and which has basically moved them into therapy. And I wouldn't see a therapist, frankly, unless they've been in therapy themselves extensively, because until you've been on the other side of the couch, you can't really know what it's like. A, and B, you want someone that's kind of been there to sort of mind the landscape of sort of their inner worlds if they're going to help you as well. So that sort of led me initially, as I had sort of a fall from grace and in my tennis career and in my sort of attempt to sort of find my way back into the best of my game again. I got fascinated by all sorts of different avenues into helping myself realize my potential. And hopefully that's what I do with my clients as well. And it's become not only a personal interest, but really a passion as well.
Yeah. Well, in sports, I mean, I have a nephew who plays baseball, and he's amazing. And he has this kind of mindset that I find interesting. But I was talking to him I heard about the yips, like as it's coined, when people kind of lose their ability to play, like a pitcher really is where it relates mostly. And I thought that was interesting. And I do stand-up comedy, and I know there's a mindset you have to get into as well, because sometimes you'll be on stage and just forget what you were saying or something, which is similar to the yips. I'd say it's the comedy yips. But what was it for you, if you want to share, with tennis that happened or that occurred that got you into more delving into the psychology of things?
Sure. Well, I won't give you the gory story, but the long and short of it is that I had sort of lived a somewhat of a charmed tennis life. The game had come quite naturally to me, and sort of little did I know, but I sort of played in what sports psychologists called a flow state for the early part of my career, which is that sort of state where you're just locked in, you're super present. You're not really concerned about winning or losing. You're just absorbed in your senses. Movement is like a dance. It's this incredible place that one of the terms is called the sports peak experience, the highest expression of that state. And what I didn't realize is from when I started playing from 11 to about 16, I played in that state naturally, and I didn't really know better. I didn't know there was another state until I had a series of events that happened that basically resulted in me having this fall from grace from being sort of the better players and nationally ranked player, all that kind of stuff, into sort of basically being a has-been over the course of a year. I mean, essentially the short version of the story is I qualified for the national championships and ended up showing up a day late because I got the dates wrong. And in order, if you don't show up for the national championships, you don't get a national ranking. And so if I had showed up, I would have probably been top 50 in the country, which means scholarships, it means coaches, it means all sorts of things. So that really routed from a time when everything came easily. And then I had a couple other events. Bottom line is that I just sort of lost my way and pulled back from tennis and got involved in the drugs as my way of coping with a series of disappointments. I sort of went off the rails for a couple of years. And when I finally woke up, if you will, and sort of rededicated myself to tennis, what I discovered was that I'd sort of lost that flow state. It became more mechanical. I got more attached to winning. I didn't play in my senses as much. I got more conservative. This game wasn't as creative. You get the idea. So I ended up spending really the next 8 or 9 years really just trying to go find that state of consciousness again. And to do that, I studied Buddhism. I meditated. I studied Zen art theory. I got involved in all kinds of things that, really helped me tap in and really helped me realize my potential again. I didn't quite fall back into that same state as much as I did when I was younger, but I learned a lot trying.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing that. I mean, I know there's a difficult thing in kind of going back and looking at something like that, especially when it's not a place you are anymore. But I think sharing that kind of part of our experience or journey, I always feel cheesy saying journey, but
I hear you.
our experience, does matter. And certainly, I think a lot of people could probably relate to things just changing in their early adulthood and having to find their way. And so you have an essay on your website, which we'll be linking to eventually anyway in the show notes and then later on. But so I did read a little bit. So I'm asking a leading question now, basically. At what point did you also have an experience with music that kind of correlated with this, experience with tennis? And I guess just get into that, and that'll get us into your experience with music overall.
No, that sounds like a good segue, and you're correct to hear them as all related. And I think one of the things that maybe we'll get to in this conversation that things relate all the way back to when we're actually much younger, and they sort of build on themselves. But to sort of take you to the story, I was 25 years old. I was recovering from an injury on the tennis tour, so I was taking a few months off, and I was living in the same town as my brother, who was in an indie rock band in town. And I came to learn that the bass player was leaving the band in 4 months. And I'd played guitar casually for a number of years. And so I thought, I didn't play bass, but I thought, I got enough finger dexterity. I can learn the bass. I mean, how hard can it be, right? So I practiced furiously for the next 4 months to the point that I could actually play all the songs, pretty competently to a cassette recorder. However, when it came to actually playing live, that was another matter altogether. I was actually feeling pretty confident walking into the audition. As I say in my essay, as I was driving over there, I heard that Bird song, "So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star." And I said, the gods have lined up for me. This is an omen. It portends my success today. So I was really feeling pretty good. But then I walked into this old ramshackle garage, which was the location of the audition. And once I saw that open space where the bass player was going to stand, I suddenly started getting this anxiety sort of building up in me. I thought, this is no big deal. I can handle this. But that anxiety quickly turned to a full-fledged, severe panic attack. I'd never had one before, never had one since. But I was literally, my legs were convulsing. I thought, am I having epileptic seizure? What's going on? In any event, I was so incapacitated that I literally couldn't, I had to sit down because I was shaking so much I couldn't my arms were shaking. I couldn't play the bass. There was no way. So I left that audition without playing a note. And so, as you can imagine, there's a lot of embarrassment. There's a certain amount of humiliation. But what's interesting was that I walked away from music after that. But what I was walking away from was just like this vulnerability thing. It's like, okay, I've had enough of this vulnerability stuff with music. And it was different than, I think it's different than tennis, because I was able to come back from tennis because I had a baseline of expertise there. Whereas with music, I really didn't. I was kind of a wannabe bass player, wannabe guitar player, really, to some degree. And so I just walked away from it, even though music is one of my great passions. And I got, in those 20 years, I became a shrink, and I got very curious about what the heck, why did I walk away from this? Why did I walk away from tennis the way I did? Like, what's up with that? I come from a good family. I was pretty resilient in my second part of my tennis career. What is up with that? And so I started researching panic and anxiety, but what I really got interested in was this notion of what's called unprocessed losses, and trying to understand why didn't I have more resiliency? And so all of that sort of led to this this curiosity about what happens when difficult events happen to people, particularly when they're young and they're formative and their emotional DNA, if you will, is forming. And what I came to conclude was that there's a lot of, what I could call small T events, like small trauma events versus T. The big T traumas we know about, car wrecks, landmines, if you're a soldier, that you're, all big stuff. We know what those are like. But the small T events are little things that maybe we don't process because either we're too embarrassed to admit something happened, or our parents don't know to talk about it with something. But there's lots of events that can happen. And I'll give you a couple examples from my history just to explain this. I once had it when I first started therapy. My therapist said, "Hey, give me an autobiography. Tell me about your life." I'm like, "Oh, I can give you my autobiography in 10 minutes. What do I need to go write this stuff down?" But when I did write it down, I discovered a couple things that were really formative. The first was I was in a different school every year from kindergarten to 7th grade, and then a new one at 9th. And right away, I was like, so this is why I was kind of socially anxious in high school and had trouble asking girls out and so on, right? And it's like it instantly clicked in. It's like, okay. And then I flashed to another event that is amusing at this point, but that I totally buried, which is, I don't know if you know about the Pinewood Derby. Have you ever heard of the Pinewood Derby? This is a Cub Scout thing where they give you a block of wood that's basically a little square piece of wood, and they say, go home with your dad and build an Indy race car and come back, and then we're going to race it, right? So I got sent home with this block of wood, and neither my dad nor myself knew what an Indy race car even looked like. And we didn't really know much about woodworking. The long and short is we just rounded off the corners and basically had the equivalent W bug. We spray painted it black and then painted a little black 5 on the side. And I was all proud of this. And until the day you show up at the big event, right? And you have this big table where there are like 200 cars. And then I walk to the table and I look around and I see like 190 Indy race cars, right? And they're all have literally no wood left on them. They're these teams that got stripes, they got decals, they're professionally painted, right? And of course, all the kids started laughing and howling at my VW bug, basically. And I just remember that was, and then the insult to injury, when it came time for the cars to race, mine basically, the wheels fell off and it fell off the track. So incredibly humiliating event for a kid. Yeah. And I just completely buried it. But it's like these kind of events land and they set things up and they set things in motion. And then I think we just sort of make decisions about how do we not get hurt again? And I think one of the ways that many people do that is they avoid vulnerability, they avoid exposure, they create strategies so that they are not as vulnerable. And so anyway, that kind of became my decision that I made, I think, post this music experience was like, I'm going to do what I do well. I'm going to do therapy. I'm going to teach tennis after, at that point, after my career was over. And I'm just going to avoid stuff that's hard. And so that's kind of how that went for many years until sort of the next portion of the story.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it is funny because there are those early humiliations that you do remember, and they're right. They're usually not this big traumatic thing, but they do form what you do. I remember for me, like I made a mistake in spelling. I didn't hear, I'll never forget because it was in like kindergarten or something. And I was like, they asked you to spell fan and I spelled van. I I was I mean I'm a perfectionist, which that this is not my therapy session or we get into that, but I know why. But I just remember that they do change the way we behave later on, like you said, which is interesting. And I think you finding that out for yourself probably made you more compassionate towards your patients. I assume, right?
Oh,
And
very
kind of
much.
maybe, yeah,
Yeah, very much so. What's
yeah.
interesting about these small events is that they actually register in the brain the same way as, big T, big stress events register. The brain literally
Mhm.
doesn't know the difference. If you do a brain MRI of someone with a small kind of humiliation or embarrassment, you would think it would be very different than someone going through a big trauma, but in fact, the brain registers the same thing.
Mm.
And what's interesting is that we store those memories and we just sort of make decisions. And the sort of the soundtrack for that part of our brain that stores all of our old memories is that who tune, I won't get fooled again, right? We store these memories like, man, I can't let that happen again. And it sort of gets our protective system engaged. And then we create all sorts of strategies to be safe in the world in whatever way we do it, right?
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. And also just you having the panic attack in the way you did. So I remember the first time I saw someone have a panic attack, it was a friend like when we were in high school and we were on a band outing, like for the marching band.
Uh,
And
right.
he just like had a panic attack and it seemed like a heart attack or something. And then I know in my later 20s and up to the last couple years, like, now know what they are and can stop them in a way. But like that, there's such a hard thing to have because unless you've had one, you don't know. So I think even you having that experience is helpful. And I do agree with you about like not going to therapists hasn't been to therapy because honestly, people I know who are studying psychology, I'm like, who are you studying this for? Because
Right.
you or someone else, and like,
A
please
lot of
get
people
help if you help someone else.
like,
Like,
right.
please.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it's funny. One thing because we're going to talk about I think your album because I mean I think it's so you're doing the psychotherapy which fulfills you, but it you got back into music and I was just thinking about when I was going to talk to you how because I was thinking about the therapist I know and like I don't or that I've gone to or go to and thinking about like realizing they have a life outside of that. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you see your teacher out with their kids for the first time and you're like, "What? Like what they're why are they at the store? Why do they have other kids with them?" And and I think it's the same with like a therapist. I'm like, "Oh, I wonder if my therapist likes music." We never talk about that. And
Right.
so this could, this is kind of insightful like, "Oh, they therapists do have lives, I forget." But so how did you decide because you not only got back into music, but you have an album that you've created, and that's even a bigger step in getting back into music. So how did all that happen for you?
Yeah. Well, there's a series of events really that sort of led to it. I mean, basically, I've loved music for a long time, and it got to a point where a good friend of mine I had shared I had played years ago, and he was a musician, and someone maybe we'll hear about later. But he basically sort of encouraged me to start again. And so, long and short is, I started writing songs and playing, but I was still carrying sort of the leftovers, if you will, of this "Thou shalt not be vulnerable," right? The first
Mhm.
commandment coming out of an experience like that.
Mhm.
And so I wrote songs for years and years, but I was like, I'm not sharing these with anybody. I just didn't, there were vulnerable songs, they're pretty intimate. I've got sort of this kind of voice that's very sort of moody and emotional, and I just wasn't prepared to be that vulnerable. And I've come to conclude you have no business being an artist if you're not willing to be vulnerable.
Mhm.
Um, so basically, so for years and years, that was kind of my MO. I had sort of an imposter voice that was like, "Oh, you're kind of a wannabe. You're not really a musician." That voice, right? That sort of would tell me, had a critic voice. "Oh, you're too this, you're too that," right? So I sort of that went on for 15 years probably. And about that time, I started experiencing this intense cognitive dissonance when was realizing that, gosh, I'm encouraging my clients to be vulnerable and take risks. And here I am with these skeletons in my own musical closet, if you will,
Mhm.
that I'm really not taking on. And I just, honestly, I just couldn't tolerate that, that level of discomfort. I'm like, this is crazy. I have to take this on. And at that point, I was also getting older. I'm like, I'm not going to go to my deathbed and never have really honored this music that I love so much. And about the same time, I decided that everything that I was writing about was really not nearly as interesting and as compelling and frankly inspiring as the stories that I witness every day in my office.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go full on with this thing. I'm gonna embrace vulnerability, sort of be the Brene Brown poster child as my goal in life. And so what I decided to do is just make this record, and that it was going to be a concept album, and it would be written from the first person voice of not my clients, of course, because I would never write songs of any real clients. These are all fictional depictions of universal themes in therapy. But of course, I'm influenced by what I witnessed. Basically, I just went into character and just started sort of imagining myself being on the other side of the couch and dealing with any number of issues. And by the way, many of my songs on the record are actually almost conversations that are intrapsychic conversations, like from one part of the personality, sort of encouraging another part, trying to get up the courage to do something or to confront something, and sort of getting pulled both directions. Most of my songs have sort of a struggle and then some sort of way out, some sort of resolution, and sort of folks wrestle with that across a bunch of different dimensions, different themes. So some of the songs are, there's a song, for example, called Rise that people listen to and said, oh, that's a great love song. I'm like, well, it's actually a song from one part of the self sort of encouraging and another part afraid to be out and take risks, take stances, sort of like me, but not about me. Anyway, so there's a lot of storylines, but the bottom line is that became the project that I said, this is where I'm going to confront this personal history, this avoidance, and I was just going to really embrace vulnerability, and creativity was going to be the pathway to do it. And so that's how it came to pass.
Yeah, and then the fact that you said you didn't share the things, and now you are sharing the things, and that is a big deal to do that. And I guess just looking at music in general, I mean, because I'm just thinking, you can like music and not do an album, or you can play guitar but just do covers or whatever. So did you realize that you were a creative person who needed a creative outlet like all along? Or do you think even tennis or something was a creative outlet for you before?
Well, that's a great question. Again, a wonderful segue of sort of adding up the events together, because you're correct. Tennis at its highest form is a creative experience for sure. And, there's a real buzz just sort of locking in to the present like that. And so when I retired, I did start to get sort of thinking, how else can I manifest? I've always been interested in the arts and in music. I wasn't ready to play music yet, but what I did do is I started painting. Began, one evening when I decided I hate Hallmark cards, but I want to send out Christmas cards to people. So I invited a bunch of people over and made a shit ton of margaritas and said, all right, let's get the watercolors out and let's roll, people. And so that started a series of abstractions. And then I got fascinated with painting, and I painted actually for the next 10, 12, 15 years or so. And so I have a whole period of my life that's all I did was painted. In fact, the album cover, by the way, that is a painting of mine as well.
Cool.
But I did also a bunch of videos that I decided to create sort of art videos to some of the music, and just to sort of integrate a little bit of my artistic brain into the music world. You can find.
So did you do any? Sorry, did you do any training for painting, or did you just
none? No training. No, it's just all self-taught. Same with music. I've never had a guitar lesson or a voice lesson. Just sort of just follow my instincts.
Yeah. How dare you? No, I'm just kidding. Oh, that's really cool. I mean, I guess, it's easier for you to tell people to go for it, and if you're putting your money where your mouth is,
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's true. The experience has been honestly one of the most transformative experiences I've ever had, honestly. And to embrace vulnerability in this way is terrifying. I mean, it's not like I'm like, woohoo, I get to talk to Rabiah. And it's like, okay, here we go. I'm committed to vulnerability. Let's roll, buddy. I'm not someone that really wants to be front and center necessarily. Kind of a quiet introvert, but I also, I felt like I just have to do that. And also, honestly, I feel really proud of the music. I think some good stuff came out of it. I can imagine if I was listening, I'd be going, oh God, an album about therapy written from this must be either some really dark, morbid stuff, or it's like some kind of kumbaya experience, We All the World to acoustic guitar or something. And actually, that was my biggest goal, was to not make that record. I really
Yeah.
wanted it to have an edge, have it be, kind of moody and but also full of possibility as well.
I really liked it, and what I heard of it, I don't know if I heard everything, but what I've heard I've liked, and I just think your experience kind of resonated with me, and that's one reason I was like, when we were in touch with each other, like, yeah, dude, come on, because and I don't usually talk that casually. I guess I'm talking to you like a therapist now. I'm trying to avoid the real subjects and getting to others. No, I'm just kidding. Um, but yeah, and then I like music too. So I just want to ask you, like, as far as music goes, I mean, the album you made, is this the album of music that like you also listen to, or who are your influences in general, like, or even favorite artists? I mean, if they're not your influences.
Sure. Gosh, the list is so long. But I actually recently had someone who asked me this, who gave me the highest compliment I could ever have, which was, she said, your music reminds me of the National. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
I died and went to heaven kind of moment. These are one of my favorite bands, and obviously it's a very inflated view, but I kind of got a little bit of that sort of some of those dark tones, tone kind of sounds. But and then somebody else had mentioned that the song sounded like 11 sort of prayers honoring the human condition, which felt like compliments that I could have. So the National is a big influence. Bon Iver, Richard Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up in my early influence of a Canadian singer-songwriter by the name of Bruce Cockburn. Was my first big true love. He's just one of these really super emotional, heartfelt singer-songwriters, and I think some of my vocal delivery, I think, came from hundreds of hours of listening to him. So
Yeah.
those are some of my influences. But I'm just interested in anybody that's writing emotional music. I can be moved by. Really, I mean, I'm sort of referencing indie stuff, but I can be equally moved by some of the minimalist stuff of like Steve Reich and Philip Glass, and any music that creates emotion. I'm there.
Well, I don't know if you heard the new Billy Joel song too. I mean, it was completely. He didn't write it. He wrote the music apparently, or contributed some big fat chords to it. But the lyrics are deep, and it's not what he's. I mean, he's done some, but if they're not his, and it I don't know. It's interesting when these big emotional songs, what they can do,
Yeah.
and how they can just move people. Colin Hay is one of my absolute favorite people, and he has this great, brilliant sense of humor when he talks. But then his songs are deeply emotional, even when they're upbeat. And I just think it's such a cool way of people expressing themselves.
Yeah, no, I agree. I couldn't write a happy pop song if I wanted to. I don't think. I like to think that doesn't mean the music is super dark and depressing, but it's definitely, motion or go home kind of is sort of my the only way I know how to play music or sing. So yeah.
Yeah. And what are your plans with the album? Are you playing live at all, or do you want to, or what's
well, that if I'm going to really if I'm going to go full on vulnerability, that's going to be the next step. The reality is I tried to play live a couple times, and both times my vocal cords basically just seized up. Honestly, anxiety just took hold. I was great 10 minutes before. I was like, I sound pretty good. Walked on stage and boom, sound like Mickey Mouse. So I'm working up to it. I'm sort of committed to playing live, and I'm going to do that. That's going to be next. Right now, I'm just hoping some folks might listen. I think there's some interesting music there, and I just obviously trying to be an absolute nobody and have anybody actually have a listen is a bit of a challenge. So I'm hoping folks will give it a chance and spread it around if it's something that they like. So right now, I'm marketing and just trying to get it out there, which is very hard to do. It's hard to get anybody to sort of respond to an email or a music journalist to review. Any music journalists out there, that would be fabulous. But and then I'm really, I think now that I've sort of let genie out of the bottle, if you will, I'm super excited about what's next. I got a bunch of songs that are sort of waiting for me when I'm done marketing this. I'm really looking forward to the doing this again. Honestly, it was just so exciting to have my ears in headphones for about 3 years and
Mhm.
just waking up every morning and go, okay, how did that track? Was that as good as I thought it was? I was like, oh no, that wasn't as good as I thought. Whatever. I just love being in it. It's just
Yeah.
it's an incredible experience. So yeah, that's what's next. I hope. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and I think, yeah, with playing, you can do it once you're ready.
Yeah.
Um,
How
yeah.
was it hard for you to get up on stage first time?
The the first time, not as much, I think just because, I mean, comedy's different. It was stuff I wrote, and I mean, I was nervous. I mean, I think it's the most nervous I've been for a gig, for sure, but I think it was just such a thing that I had put off for so long, kind of for different reasons than you, I suppose, but, like, still, like, I just didn't think I belonged up there, and I thought a lot of it was tied around my body image too, and just saying, "Well, I'm like, no one will wanna see me up there." This is horrible stuff you say to yourself,
Yeah.
Like, who's gonna wanna see me up there? And they're gonna laugh at me, they're not gonna laugh at my jokes, they're just gonna laugh at me and whatever, and just kind of thinking about just myself in different ways and that I didn't belong, but then, I think the truth is, like, if you're there, you belong there, You've
Yeah. Yeah.
someone's put you there, you put yourself there. Open mics, everyone's there. It doesn't matter if they want or not, they can show up and do it. And I think there's something about the people who can just get up and make a complete fool of themselves because they don't they don't have any idea that they're not good. And I think it's the people who are good have a harder time with that. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
that's
kind of
true.
a jerk thing to say, but I have found that people who are really lacking in any self-awareness and are really awful, it almost, I don't know if yeah, they're even aware because they'll come back. Oh, that was great. It's like, what were you? Where were you?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of, that
I,
wasn't
I
very
know,
nice, but
no, I know what you speak for sure.
yeah. So I think it's just a matter of like when I've talked to comics, a lot of times I'll talk at a gig with people, and some people will be really nervous at their first time or early on, and and what I do to myself too is I set my goal, and so sometimes my goal is just to perform. Like I don't have it in me to do anything else but just to perform and get off stage. And I just tell them like, what do you want to do? Like, are you trying to have the best gig anyone's ever had and get on the biggest stage ever? Or are you just trying to go up and say your material? And if that's what you're trying to do and you do that, then you've achieved it. And so for you, it's like, even if your goal is just to go up and sing one of your songs and
Yeah.
that's the objective, and it doesn't have to, nothing else has to happen. It doesn't have to be for people to like it. Who cares? That's the objective. You can achieve it. I think when I start to get more in my head about, oh, I want to be the funniest tonight, and things like that, where I can't have any control over that really, that's when I get messed up.
Yeah. Right. That's it. If you're just in the moment, then let the chips fall where they may after that, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's never going to be that bad. I mean, it just isn't. Like, I don't know. Cause it's just, the thing I learned in comedy the most, and I think it applies to music or anything, is like, no matter how that gig goes right then, you just have to do the next gig. It
Right.
does. If it's the best gig you ever had, you still have to do the next one. If it's the worst you ever had, you still have to do the next one, and that one can go how it goes. And that's the kind of beauty of all of it. It just kind of keeps going. I do want to ask you about one thing, which is Brene Brown, because you mentioned her, and we just
Yeah.
kind of skipped by her a little bit. But Brene Brown was definitely one of the most influential people to me in the last decade. Although I can't say I always follow what I've read. But what was the book that got you? Mine was Gifts of Imperfection. What was the book that got you in, or podcast or whatever?
It was the book. Yeah. The book Dare Greatly was the book that got me in. And, of course, I saw her TED Talk that went viral. And, I kind of knew this stuff intellectually, but I wasn't really ready to integrate it. I sort of knew professionally all this stuff. But when I read it and I was really I was ready to be vulnerable myself.
Hmm.
But she was the voice that put me over the edge. And it was just like, life is short. There's only one way to live here. And it was just like, okay, this is what I have to do. And she definitely inspired me for sure.
Awesome. Was your
Yeah.
family supportive of you doing the music and stuff, or?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, it's funny because my brother is the rock star of the family. I have an
Yeah.
extremely talented brother. And so, one of the other things I was overcoming in this whole project was just like, how can I be making music when my brother's truly an extraordinary songwriter and
Mm.
musician? It's like, but everybody was very supportive. But the hardest part was for me was just overcoming. Okay, my role in the family is the shrink and the tennis pro. and he's a musician and the creative exec at a big advertising company, and super creative guy. So anyway, overcoming that was a big deal too. Just kind of transcend my role in my family was part of the process.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big one. Very relatable too. Like, that's your label. What are you doing? Huh. Cool. All right. So the one question I ask everybody is just like, do you have any advice or mantra you want to share? And I know that, especially asking certain people in certain professions don't like to share advice at all, but like just maybe something that works for you that you think maybe will be helpful for other people.
I mean, yeah, I won't wax poetic for long. I'll just simply say I've just learned to not believe in the concept of failure. Honestly, I feel like all things are just learning opportunities, and you know, life is short. Take some chances. Don't be afraid to fall down.
Yeah.
I have a song called "Learning How to Fall," which is just sort of that's what it's really about. And in any event, yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So the last 5 questions I have are called the Fun 5, and I ask everybody. So the first one is, what is the oldest T-shirt you have and still wear?
Sure. This is not hard. I have a T-shirt that's black, and it has 5 images of Tai Chi masters in various stages of poses. Tai Chi, as you may know, is the ancient Chinese martial art. And so these are 5 different poses. And it looks really cool. And I won't lie, back in my late 20s, when I was searching the world for my soulmate, it was my favorite dating prop. I don't have a dog that I could march down the boulevard as a conversation piece, but I did have my Tai Chi shirt and had the secret fantasy that some evolved person would say, "Oh, Tai Chi, you do Tai Chi?" And would lead to a conversation. And so, yes, did I wear that shirt relentlessly? I did indeed.
Did it work?
I got a couple conversations out of it. I don't know that I found my true love per se, but it was fun trying.
Yeah. Hey, no, I'll leave it. Okay. So, because I'm still doing that. I'm in my 40s, and yeah, I have props. All right. So, if every day was really Groundhog's Day, like people have been saying, I mean, it's not as much now, but during I wrote this question during the part of the pandemic when we were locked down. But if it was really Groundhog's Day, nevertheless, what song would you have your alarm clock set to play every morning?
Yeah, it's a tough one, but what I came to is this beautiful piece that the title matches the request here. The title is called "Opening," which obviously metaphorically fits. And this is an instrumental piece by Philip Glass. The version I prefer, there's many versions. The version I prefer is the electric guitar version because I play guitar, by an incredible guitarist by the name of Sergio Sorrentino. And this is this beautiful, repetitive, hypnotic song, but isn't real new agey. So it's like, cheesy. It's a lot of movement, very sophisticated, even though it's very repetitive, hypnotic. So that would definitely be what I'd wake up to every morning.
Awesome. All right, cool. And then coffee or tea or neither?
Coffee always.
Yeah.
My sister has given me grief for years because I drink light, wimpy coffee, and she's traveled the world where they only drink strong coffee. Yeah. And she finally talked me into drinking the hard stuff. So I've been converted.
Cool. I know. Yeah, American coffee is different for sure. All right. Can you think of a time that you laughed so hard you cried, or just something that cracked you up when you think of it? And this just entertains me, really.
Yeah. No. This is an easy one. I don't think I've ever laughed more hysterically, and I still, every time I think about it, it just cracks me up. And this is the scene from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You know which scene I'm going to tell you. It's the Black Knight scene when he chops off the arm and blood goes splitting everywhere. Flesh wound. He chops off the other arm. And I just find that to be absolutely hysterical.
Yeah, there's like nothing left of
Exactly.
It's so stupid. That's perfect. All right. The last one, which I'll see if this one's hard. These questions have been easy for you. Some people freak out, and that gets cut from the edit. But who inspires you right now?
There's 2 people that inspire me. I hope it's okay to do 2. I'll make it.
Yeah, of course.
Unfortunately, they're both cancer related. The friend that I mentioned earlier who encouraged me to start writing music, again, a wonderful man by the name of Stephen May, was my best friend for many, many years, and he actually wrote the instrumental pieces on 3 of the tracks on the record, and I just sang over him. Sadly, he passed away last year. rare cancer at too young an age. And I mentioned him as an inspiration, because he encouraged me to play music, but really because he's the most creative man I've ever met. And this is a man that routinely would complete 3 fully orchestrated songs in a week while he's working on one of his 4 novels, while he was creating board games, while he was doing a cable television show that he was host, this zany show, and taking his children on amazing adventures. I mean, he's an extraordinary guy that just had to create, right? And it's revolved around creativity. It's just inspiration. So he's somebody, and the second person is my mom, who's fighting cancer right now, and just an inspiration to watch her take it on and just sort of honor the whole process, the sadness, but also honoring sort of the gift of the time she has, and being fully alive and not getting stuck in the hard stuff. So those are the 2 big inspirations. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sorry about the loss of your friend. And
yeah, thank you.
You're honoring him by continuing to do the music.
Sure.
So yeah, and hopefully your mom gets through this.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, so Michael, I mean, it's been awesome to talk to you. It's been really fun, and just you're so chill. You're so calm. So it's just easy. So I just want to make sure we state, like, where do you want people to go to find you? Your website or wherever else?
Sure. Thank you. Well, my artist name is M. Brady. The Michael Brady was taken by another musician, so I became M. Brady, M. Brady. I might add, there is an M. Brady on Apple Music that doesning have a dot. So M. Brady will get you to my record on any streaming site, Spotify, Apple, those are the big ones, obviously. If you want to check out any of my videos, I do have a YouTube channel that you can find by the search M. Brady Music, YouTube. And then you can find all of it actually at my website, which is mbradymusic.com. And one of the pieces I'll just mention, if there's any musicians out there that happen to listen to any of the music and find it interesting, or maybe even find my voice interesting, I'm interested in actually doing some collaboration for my next record, where I'm sort of encouraging musicians to send me instrumental pieces somewhere between 2.5 minutes and 4. And if anybody wants to send me anything that is emotional or a little bit, whatever it moves you, I sort of like the idea of just sort of seeing what appears musically when a body of music lands. I often have this experience when I'm listening to music and there's a big long intro into a song before the vocals come, and I'm like, I start hearing a melody in my head right away, and then I'm like, don't sing yet, I'm just getting this melody down, right? And they come in and sing, it's like, I wish I just had that as no. Anyway, I'm kidding, but I just love sort of just seeing what appears, and it takes me a while to create my own music because I'm self-taught, so it might take me many more hours than someone else. Somebody just hands me some music, it's like, oh, boom, we can make a song. So feel free to contribute. You can find a place to send me an instrumental song on my website under the collaborate on my navigational bar.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. Well, thank you, Michael. Really appreciate you being on More Than Work.
It was really great to be here. Thank you. All right. Take care.
Thanks for listening. You can learn more about the guest and what was talked about in the show notes. Joe Maffia created the music you're listening to. You can find him on Spotify at Joe, Maffia. Rob Metke does all the design, for which I am so grateful. You can find him online by searching Rob, Metke. Please leave a review if you like the show, and get in touch if you have feedback or guest ideas. The pod is on all the social channels at More Than Work Pod or at Rabiah Comedy on TikTok. While being kind to others, don't forget to be kind to yourself.